Welcome into a Tuesday edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. I'm Doug Kezirian alongside professional handicapper Albert Nguyen, also known as Analytics Capper, on this somewhat slow Tuesday, but we're getting some news now. We are having an adjustment in the betting market. Caitlin Clark ruled out for tonight's Commissioner's Cup championship game. The line has shot up to, feel like LeBron, not 3, not 4, 10.5. Monster side adjustment, and the total has moved drastically from 165 range to 158 at Bet Rivers. So certainly a sizable adjustment. I thought this would go to 8.5. I'm very surprised it went to 10.5, but I'm also not running to bet the Indiana Fever right now. So that's interesting for sure. We have obviously some big dominoes that are falling in the NBA free agency and some big news surfacing, but I want to start with the W because it's a game tonight, and this news sort of breaking on our watch. And just a reminder to like and subscribe. Somebody on the last show, Betting Weekly Hardball, asked, how do you get alerts when we're on and things like that? Well, that's the beauty of liking, subscribing. You will get alerts when we were about to post here on the Bet Rivers Network under the Betting Weekly umbrella. So please, that helps with the analytics. That's the currency in the YouTube world. So we appreciate if you do that, spend the time to do that. It's free, doesn't take much effort on your end, and helps us out a lot. So the line's 10.5. Over under adjusted to 158. Like I mentioned, the line was 6.5, as it was 4.5, like as recently as Saturday. So shame on all of us for missing the boat on this. Caitlin Clark, so she's got a left groin injury on the heels of her left quad injury. So she's missed the last 2 games. We'll miss this one. How are you seeing this, Albert? Just first sort of glance here.
It's kind of perplexing for me, Doug, because if you go to the Indiana Fever social media accounts, just 20 minutes ago, they're posting Caitlin Clark half-court shots. So she is practicing. She is, with the team today. But yeah, she's been ruled out. It feels like they're punting the game. It feels like she can go if they really needed her to, but they're just deciding that the regular season is a little more important. And I actually don't disagree with them because they've been kind of struggling, right, due to her injury. And I think if she rests tonight and plays Thursday night against the Las Vegas Aces, I think that's going to be a more important game for them for the future and for the rest of the season.
I agree it's the right decision. I know 20 grand is 20 grand, and that's what this is. Obviously, the players on the winning team get 30, players on the losing team get 10. So it's a 20K difference. And if she played hurt, there's no guarantee you win, right? And you're focused on the regular season, and can't really mess around in the standings with what's been unfolding there. Messing around with 500 record, it's the right move. It's interesting you say punting.
I said that
Because
very intentionally.
Yeah, I perked up. Because my initial read of this, because where do you stand on the Lynx? Are they? I know West picked them to win it all. What were they your pick to win it this year?
I actually thought that they were gonna have a letdown of a year, right? They came out
Too.
of nowhere last year. I mean, nowhere is a little facetious there, but they were a great team last year, and it's tough to get to that. Every season is so different from the next, and I didn't expect them to have this great of a season. I know it's still early, but their offense is humming, Doug. I mean, they've basically averaged 100 points in the last 2 games. Obviously, the competition has been really bad, but it's not like competition without Caitlin Clark tonight, against the Indiana Fever is going to be that great either. So, I mean, long-winded
Right.
way of answering is I think they're elite. I think they are definitely a contender for the title. It's hard for me it's almost like I have to see it. It's like the 2014 Golden State Warriors, right? The whole narrative before they won everything was Charles Barkley saying jump shooting teams can't win, 3-point shooting teams can't win. And I have to see that out of Minnesota before I can actually say they will win.
So I think they're undoubtedly a contender. I think that's anybody who said otherwise would be crazy. Now the question is, I just don't think they're that good, right? So I think Collier's awesome. She's fantastic, appropriately the MVP betting favorite odds on. But I think some of their next tier of players are almost glorified glorified reserves, sort of, so to speak. They're nice players. Like McBride's a nice player, right? Courtney Williams is a nice player. I just think they're really well coached. The system is good and they play good defense. And so the sum of the parts, that whole expression, I think that's what they are. Like their execution and team defense and everything is really strong and they're smart. Okay. I just don't think I would draft anyone outside of Collier for like an all-star team. Maybe McBride because she shoots and she has a quick trigger. But they have limitations when they get in a funk. Now, I just don't think the Fever are going to slow them down. I think the Fever are sloppy, and I don't think they're that great coach. So I can see the Lynx running away with this. My favorite play on the game, and I want to make it official. I just think it hasn't been posted, and it will be posted eventually at Bet Rivers. Is the team total?
Yep.
Okay, it is posted under game. My apologies. So 73 and a half is a low number. So I'm a little concerned there because the game over under jumped drastically 7.5 points, and then so did the side. So that means the team total went way under. But I think this team's got issues, and Dantas is out as well for Indiana. She's a nice stretch 4 or 5 off the bench, and so this team. The problem with betting a team total under against Minnesota is that the Lynx may score so quickly and that the Fever is just going to get a volume of possessions. And now that they have Ari McDonald on top of Sydney Colson, they can push pace. And Kelsey Mitchell's as streaky as anyone shooting. So I just wonder if the Lynx are going to name their score and then they might give up set 80 to Fever and it's like 95-80 kind of thing.
Yeah, that's exactly why I lean the over for the entire game. I'm not isolating
Okay.
I'm not isolating the half. I'm not isolating their specific team. I just think that there's a little overreaction right now. Caitlin Clark, being out, people expect the offense to be run a lot worse, and it will be. It's not going to be as efficient. You guys have heard me talk about how terrible their half court offense is without Caitlin Clark, but I think they're going to push the pace. And I think, in my opinion, and again, I say this intentionally, I think Caitlin is healthy. I think you make a good point in the fact that just because she plays doesn't mean they're going to win the finals, but it feels like they are quote unquote punting this game, which means I think defense is optional and I think they're just gonna run and gun. So I expect a lot of threes, a lot of outside shots, and then a lot of fast break layups from both teams tonight.
Hmm. This is interesting because the players are still going to cash 10 grand tonight. And just to repeat what I was saying is if you push through and play through injury, doesn't mean you're going to win. You're still on the road. You're still not as good as the Lynx. You still got a lot of work to do as a team. She's great. I mean, at her best, but she wasn't playing all that great right before she sat out some games. So she's been a participant at practice, I believe, in the last Sunday and Monday, but she was not a full participant. So she just may be not quite ready to go full speed, and Thursday she might be. Again, growings are tricky, we know that. This is not a bone that's healing, and you don't wanna rush back and cause more damage because there's so many games left in the season. I believe there's, like, 28 games left in the season, so around there. So, and the Fever, just like every other team, have higher aspirations. They're already guaranteed 10K. I just wonder what we're gonna get from some of the other players. Like
And I think
I find
you're
it hard to believe that they punt, like they
yeah.
really don't show up at all.
I
But
I
they're
would
missing
say
Dantas. Like she's good.
I agree with you there. I would say the caution when I say punting is mostly on defense because I think that's more of an effort thing. That's more of a let's scout this
Focus.
team and yeah, focus and motivation and the team scheming it. And I just don't think the players, both sides, are like I'm gonna go down and really defend my guy, my the player in front of me tonight. I just don't see that. So I think the Lynx realize that they are inferior or superior to Indiana in almost every way, especially without Caitlin Clark. They don't need to blow out and cover this to win the title, right? So that's why I'm not touching the spread at all. I just like the over. I just think there's going to be a lot of free points, especially in garbage time in the fourth quarter. If it does get away, I just think both teams are just shooting and trying to get to the finish line and getting out of this game healthy. I think that's the most important thing for both teams.
So hmm, I think I'm with you on this. I like the Lynx to name their score. I like over team total 85.5. 85.5 is pretty low. I mean, that's 21.5 a quarter, right?
Yeah.
They can put up 30 in a quarter if they wanted to. So I'm going to officially play um, Lynx over 85.5 points. And Cheryl Reeve's not going to mess around if they're up 15 going in the fourth. Like they know that this Fever team, I mean, they just came back against the Sparks. So the Sparks came back against them. So I would play the team total for the Lynx. I'm not convinced this Fever team is good offensively, but I am convinced the Lynx are and their connection. I do agree. I think you're onto something with the first half's only 80.5. And I looked at last year's, the NBA Cup is the parallel. We've had so many unders, like overwhelming unders, right? But that was a neutral site, and the defense, like the delta between the defense that's played when NBA players care and when they don't is pretty wide.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the same in the W. So the fact that it's in a normal arena for the Lynx, and the fact that I think the game flew over last year, even though it was in a different gym. It was on Long Island because the Barclays Center was occupied for the Liberty because obviously the beginning of the season they didn't know they'd be in this game. So I would play the over 85.5 at -110 at Bet Rivers. I think that's the right play. I was looking at first half over 80.5. I think the Fever will come out and let it rip, but Minnesota's calling cards defense in a lot of ways. So that gives me a little pause. But you like the game over. You think it gets a little loosey at the end or the second half.
I do. I do. Let's make that an official play. That I think that's going to be my only
Okay.
play tonight for basketball. So I like the over there. And if you guys want to wait for a couple hours, I think that the total is going to drop, 1 or 2 points potentially as more people are hammering the under.
The absence of Caitlin Clark is what's the rationale on that,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Okay, so we have some people chiming in, and don't forget, always join the conversation here in the Bet Rivers Network in the comments section. We welcome your input, things you like, things you dislike, things you want to see, recommendations, bets you're eyeing, you want our opinions on. We'll try to answer it all. So Daryl Turner getting involved. He likes the Lynx's money line and the over. I agree. Can I interest you, Albert, before we make your completely official 158 on the over? Can I interest you in a combo special as I'm searching the Bet River site? Game combos. You can get over 158 with the Lynx to win the game at plus 105.
Oh, that sounds really good.
So it's a 15-cent perk in the juice from minus 110 to plus oh 05 if you just have the Lynx win the game
I'm always
with the
interested.
over,
Yeah,
that
I'm
is.
always interested in combos. Let's do it. Let's do it.
So let's shade. So you want to change that. So it's not over 158. So it's the same game parlay essentially at plus 105.
So the
So you're going to go
over the over 158 and then Minnesota money.
Minnesota to win the game, money line. Right. So plus oh 05. Yeah, I saw that. I felt like that was enticing as well. I think that's the right way to play. I don't look the Fever. I think Sophie Cunningham stinks offensively. Okay, so she can make open threes. Congratulations. So you have Kelsey Mitchell, who can be a weapon. She can go off, but the Lynx defend, unlike some of these other teams. And so you have Lexi Hull can hit the open three, and then Boston can eat down low. So they're going to score a little bit. I just don't think they're going to be bombing and all this stuff, and I don't think they're going to defend at all. I think the Lynx can kind of name their score
And
themselves.
I think
So,
one element that
uh,
a lot of people don't mention in WNBA is also athleticism. I think when Indiana has Caitlin Clark and they're humming on offense, they're just there, there is a touch of athleticism and size and strength that they have on over other teams. Whereas against Minnesota, this is at worst Minnesota is just on the same level. So I agree with you. I think players like Sophie Cunningham is going to struggle tonight just because she doesn't have that advantage over, any other bench player that she would be facing.
yeah, I agree, and you're right. Her lack of athleticism. She's kind of slow. I would say her speed isn't quite jumping off the screen. Um, so that's interesting, and no connection to her comments today about the cities of Cleveland and Philadelphia and things like that. She's not a happy camper with the league expansion to, I guess, those cities. But my counter to that is she'll probably be out of the league by then. So who cares?
Oh wow, shot.
Uh,
That was some
we're going to
shots.
come back to we're going to come back to the W. I want to get your at least early leans, early thoughts on Thursday's card, but I want to switch to the NBA because we're seeing big news. surface across the board in the association with Miles Turner going to the Bucks. They're doing everything they can to win over Giannis, lure the prom queen, if you will. And they bought out Dame, which is just wild. So they gave away Drew Holiday for all this stuff. And then they bring in Turner. They got Bobby Portis recently, and they're opening the checkbooks, right? They're not afraid to spend for Giannis, which is good. I like that. I think all owners should have an obligation to their fans to just spend money. The nickeling and diming I can't stand, but the Bucks are still massive long shots, even though they do have Giannis 33-1. Any interest there for you?
I guess first thing is Miles Turner enough, Doug, to keep Giannis around? Like that's a true question. That's a valid question because I personally don't know. I know they shipped out Brooke Lopez, who's much older than Miles Turner, but if we're talking about skill set and impact on the game, it's actually not that far off. They're kind of comparable. Obviously, Miles
Correct.
Turner is better. He's younger, more athletic. But the way they play the game is pretty similar. I don't know if that's enough to keep Giannis. They did bring in Gary Harris. They re-signed Gary Trent. So I mean, they're making these small moves. I just don't know. I just don't know if it's enough for Giannis. So I think this is my 2 cents. I personally don't think it's enough for Giannis. So I think these odds for Milwaukee is gonna get much worse because he's gonna either be unhappy or ask for a trade out.
So you still think it's going to go down that dark path for Bucks fans?
I do because I think he's gonna leave eventually. Like he's not gonna stay there his entire career because they're not gonna be
Really?
competing
Okay.
for another championship. If you look at the landscape in the East, even with Miles Turner, you would have to make a very very strong argument for them to even be in the top five, top six in a wide open East. That's with Giannis being a top three player, and then when you then account for the Western Conference teams, like they fall way underneath. So I think he's leaving eventually. It's really just like trying to stop stop the bleeding by putting on this band-aid. I just don't think it's enough.
I don't know because he won. Like he is for me, he won a title, so that's significant.
Seems
Um,
like he wants more than one, Doug.
for sure, but it bought him some good grace, and he hasn't asked out yet. But you're right. I shouldn't be so naive. I've seen it done a million times. Dame left Portland. Now Dame didn't have a title in Portland like Giannis does in Milwaukee, but I keep coming back to the futures market with the Cavs now at 8-1 plus 800 to win it all. All these teams are fighting for second place. And I just think the Cavs are going to be a dominant one seed next year. And going into the postseason, they'll be like plus 400 or something like that to win the title. Doesn't mean they're going to get there and the ticket's going to cash, but I think we're going to get value come playoff time a year from now.
No, that's actually a great look because if you look at the futures market for conference winner, I think they're what plus 250, plus 300 at
Right.
most, right? So you're getting better 3 to 1, 3 times better than that pretty much for them to if they make the finals for them to win a 7 game series against the Western Conference finalists. So that to me makes a lot of sense. I think the safer play though is Cavs just to win a conference because it is their conference to lose. Darius Garland will be out for the first month or two, but I think that's actually a blessing in disguise. It's going to allow other players to step up. They've lost Ty Jerome, so I think they're going to kind of develop other guys there to be the backup point guard. So I like the Cavs a lot. I think my dark horse, and I put this in our notes, in our pre-show notes, is Atlanta Hawks. And it's been like this for basically the last 5 years, Doug. Kristaps Porzingis, if he plays, he's the biggest wild card for that team, right? And in my opinion, because of his, offensive versatility, the way he can stretch the floor, if he plays anywhere from 65 to 70 games for Atlanta, I wouldn't be surprised if they win like 55 games. They're that deep. They are versatile both on offense and defense with addition of, Luke Kennard and Nikhil Alexander Walker. They still already have Jalen Johnson. They still already have Dyson Daniels. This is a really deep team. And I think if Atlanta can play their style of basketball, which is going to be really quick and hard perimeter defense, I like that team to win 50 plus games.
Can they keep a Kongwu? the salary cap issues and I mean salary cap stuff.
I think they're gonna keep them and see how they do until the trade deadline. So I think they keep them into next year, Doug, and then if they're doing well, they're gonna extend them. If they're, struggling by February, they'll look to move them.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, I mean, look, the problem is Porzingis doesn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know, like, what do you do? It's like, what's the definition of insanity? Um, I just at some point you just have to accept that he's going to be limited and not play the right amount of games. I mean, this past year he played 42, previous season 57,
Yep.
and then 65 in his last season in Washington. But then before that was 51. Before that was 43. I mean,
Yeah, so
now all that
I
matters
guess
is you're
my
healthy for the playoffs.
yeah, my ask of him playing 65 to 70 is pretty a pretty big long
And he had
shot.
this virus thing was just so random, right? It wasn't even an injury.
But don't you feel like I also put this in the notes? Trey Young, who was, considered a superstar 2 to 3 years ago,
Yeah.
during that playoff run against the Knicks, he's had a couple down years. If you look at his stats, they're actually not down. The team has been down, but he individually has still been pretty good, pretty solid. And if this team is gonna come out with a fast start because of how deep they are, how athletic they are now, they get on a 50-55 win pace, like he's going to be in talks for all NBA teams again. So I think it's a good buy low opportunity for someone like Trey Young.
No, it's interesting, and I do like Daniels and Johnson. They're going to be so much better next year. So you put in the notes, and I think it's worth discussing. Bet Rivers Southeast Division odds. Hawks are the second favorite at plus 195. Magic significant favorites at minus 335. And Orlando's going to have to do something that's a lot of teams struggle with, and that's to go from under the radar to now the hunted, right? And play with expectations and have a not a complete bullseye on their back, but have a they're not sneaking up on anyone anymore.
Yeah,
And just because they added Desmond Maine doesn't mean things go right. Now, I will say they did have some bad luck with injuries
he did.
last year, Jalen Suggs specifically, but Boncaro missed a bunch of time, Wagner missed some time. So things didn't exactly go swimmingly easily last year. And so, there's going to be good regression in that regard. So I understand they're the favorite, but Hawks could be a sneaky team to bet on that kind of like underdog sort of futures market at plus 195 just to win the division. But I agree with you. They're going to be a tough out. I like their bench too. So I like where your head's at. And they added Kennard and Nikhil Alexander Walker. And they still got Risa, who's a nice piece. So there's stuff to like in Atlanta. How about Quinn Snyder on the hot seat? Now he's got a lot of players, and now he's a contender again.
It's a make or break it year for Quinn this year, in my opinion, right? Because he does. He has all the players he wants. He has, like I mentioned earlier, so much versatility now on defense, and then he's able to play his high level off motion offense. So we'll see, man. The other thing about Orlando is I don't see, so I think that the Desmond Bain move was a good move for them. I think once if you can get a two-way player like that in the beginning of his prime, you do it every single time. It was a little rich. I think it was 4 first rounders in addition to those players, but it's hard for
Well, one of the first rounders, just so people understand, one of the first rounders was getting Memphis to take KCP off their hands.
yeah,
They had to bribe them
yeah.
because he had kind of run its course. So it was like 1.5 picks for that and 2.5 for Bain. That's sort of like the allocation, if you will.
And KCP had a horrible playoffs, and that's why they wanted to ship him out. But with that being said, it's hard in a regular season team, right? So I'm just looking at the regular season, winning the Southeast Division, which means having the best record in that division, right? I think for the Orlando Magic, they're more built for the playoffs, where it slows down, where it's more defensive, where possessions are more paramount. But in the regular season, if you can score 120 a game, you're gonna win 60 games, right? And I think Atlanta has that higher ceiling offensively, which makes me like them more in the regular season.
I can get behind that. Like you said, the teams can't just run and score with them. And Porzingis is great, like in rim protection, everything. Hmm, it's just the reliability component. It's unfortunate, but at some point you are what you are, right? And it's hard to talk around in circles around um, potential when the evidence is there, like how few games you play. Denver Nuggets are making moves. I believe they're just adding Valanciunas.
Oh, wow.
That's some buzz coming right now. They need help, and I like that they're bringing back Bruce Brown, things like that. They still have the best player. Oh, so they traded us. Okay, Valanciunas for Saric. Saric has just never worked out, unfortunately, for the process in Philly. Yeah, I like Valanciunas. He's solid. Um, he you can almost go double bigs at times, not the whole time, but you can play Jokic at the 4 if you will. I just want to run the offense through him at the high post. And Valanciunas can even stretch the defense a little bit on the baseline. I just think getting competent basketball players around Jokic is really smart. And that's part of the KCP narrative right now is that he looked so good playing against LeBron and Jokic, and that Orlando kind of showed what he is as a player out when not playing against some of the best players in the world, if not the two smartest players in the world.
And talking about
Um,
injuries, getting rid of Michael Porter Jr. and getting, Cam Johnson back is huge because, that's in my opinion, a more consistent player and someone that's going to play defense as well. I think the Nuggets to me are a dark horse in the West, man. It's really hard to repeat. I know OKC is really just at the tip of the iceberg in terms of their dynasty, but it's so, as you know, Doug, like so many things have to fall right for you to win once.
right.
Just the ask to win it back to back times is crazy. So them getting plus 200 right now is in my opinion just terrible odds. Nuggets 8-1. I think there's some value there for sure. Jokic is still Jokic.
Right. And let's face it, they were probably the stiffest opponent. Well, I mean, Pacers did take him to 7, but I was going to try to see if I can interest you on maybe a surprise regular season. I don't think I like it, but Nuggets plus 540 to win the division ahead of the Thunder. That's the
Mm.
problem. The OKC Thunder are in their division.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on that one. I don't think Denver's worried about the regular season at this point.
Right. Right. The depth is really the OKC advantage that they have, and they're so young that they're not going to be wear and tear. But and they were actually plagued by injuries at times throughout the season, so it's not like everything went perfectly for them either. You saw on the graphic, I think what was it, plus 500 to win the West. So the odds market's adjusting for the Nuggets. They know they're there, right there in the mix. Um, are they the second favorite? Am I blanking on another team?
It's them in
Calling it up
Houston.
conference. Yeah, Houston. I'm just not there yet on Houston. They're co second favorites, the Nuggets and the Rockets at plus 500. That feels right. That feels right. I mean, Houston's going to be good. I love Udoka. I just don't love Van Vliet. Maybe they have another move left in them. We'll see, and we'll see what the Lakers do. I mean, I
Are they gonna
know,
do
I know
anything?
the market's usually skewed. Well, they're 9-1 in the West, and they have Luka and LeBron. You have to beat Luka and LeBron 4 out of 7 games. Okay, and there's buzz right now that Horford's eyeing them. Um,
Horford would
it
be
could
a
be
nice
Horford. You can get
piece.
8.
Yeah.
You can get 8. I mean, that Horford's not exactly a good defender per se, like rim protector, so that they're going to really have a liability on defense everywhere. But still think like Luca was the worst version of himself last year. What if he comes back in shape and they're well coached? I don't know. But I agree with you in Dallas. Dallas is like 10 deep and really good.
And deep, and
They're scary, but
Kyrie's not
the
getting back.
second unit's
Yeah.
good.
Kyrie's not getting back to January, February, so he's gonna be rested right for the playoff run. I think right now is such a good time to buy into the Mavericks. Just like before yesterday, if you were one of my followers on Twitter has a Atlanta Hawks 70-1 ticket before all those moves yesterday, and I was like, that's amazing. Now you can kind of use that as the centerpiece of the portfolio that you want to build in the futures market. So he's looking at other teams now.
Yeah, man, I do think you're onto something with Dallas. I think they could be a regular season beast even without Kyrie. I think they're a team who, when you go 10 deep and you're well coached with Kid, maybe you can and just be, you know, weather the storm with guys like Klay Thompson sitting out here and there. That's a division price I would look at. Now, I don't see it right now. Okay, they're 11.5 to 1. Like, why are we anointing the Rockets with a fragile Durant and all that? Like Mavericks plus 1150 to win the Southwest. I think that's I've made worse bets in my life. Let's put it that way.
I like that a lot, actually. I'm gonna look into putting a bet now as we speak.
Yeah, I think that's a good play. Okay, so we have a little bit of time left. I want to go back to the W, and we'll see. Props will be posted later today, and we don't really have the full onslaught, but I want to look ahead to Thursday's games because I want to get your take on, just the card. There's some early lines coming out. Now, I know some news surfaced today. Ryan Howard, star player in Atlanta, the Dream, is day to day. So she may still play, but there's something to be considered there. So right now, the Dream are 1-point home favorites to Seattle. Storm are just a headache to bet. Liberty of coming home from that long road trip where they did not fare well. 12-point home favorites to the Sparks. And you have the Lynx coming off maybe a win in the Commissioner's Cup, 12-point home favorites to the Mystics. And then the Wings and Mercury, 7.5, Phoenix road favorite. And I assume Paige will return and play for Dallas. So any early leans here across the board?
Yeah, for two looks. First one is going to be that Minnesota game. I think you hit it right on the dot. If they come back as the champions of the Commissioner's Cup and they take care of business against Indiana by, 15, 20 plus points, I see a potential flat spot there on Thursday night. I think the Mystics are a feisty team. I think they've covered if let me get those stats in front of me, but I right now, I put it in our notes, contingency bet. If Minnesota covers tonight, Tuesday night, I do like Washington to cover on Thursday night, and I'll get the stats for you in a second.
You're on the show tomorrow, so you have some. We're not going to like hold your feet to the fire. I'm not. I wanted to pick your brain. I think it's good to just sort of flush it out early in the week. Um, so the Lynx last year did win the Commissioner's Cup, and I'm searching the calendar to see when it was because there was an Olympic break, but before that was the Commissioner's Cup, and I want to see how they fared against New York in that game. If there was a letdown spot, because obviously very similar. So 2024 Commissioner's Cup game, and I'll get the date. June 25th was the championship game. So on June 27th, they played at Dallas and lost by 6.
There you go. There you go.
There you go. So, I mean, that tells you all you need to know. And I know Cheryl Reeve will push all the right buttons and do what she can, but there's only so much you can do with people who won 30K. So
And I mean, this
that's
Mystics
something to
team,
keep in
like I
mind.
mentioned, they're not a bad team. They're 8-9 overall. They're 10-7 against the spread. They play really well both at home and away against the spread. I think this is a good opportunity for them. Maybe it's a first half look. Again, you're right. I am on the show tomorrow, so I'll talk about it more. But I just think Minnesota is going to come out a little flat, and maybe because of their superiority, they can come back and win the game. But right now, if Minnesota takes care of business tonight, I do like Washington.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard not to, right? Like, how do you not? I mean, it's the classic spot, double digit. First half, I even like that rationale even more. So that's a smart angle and smart as well. You said you had two sort of looks. What was your
Yeah,
second
the
one?
other game was the Mercury and the Wings. Does that line seem a little fishy to you? The Mercury, one of the surprises of the season, one of the better teams in the league. The Wings, we know, don't play any defense. They also shipped out, one of their starters, just this past week. Page might be coming back, but it seems like that line is telling me it's a Dallas play just because it's a lot shorter than I expected.
They've won 4 of 6. They've sort of turned things around. And one of the two losses was overtime at Washington, so nothing to sneeze about. And the other one was a home loss to Indiana without Caitlin Clark. So that was but that line was like 1.5. So I actually think this Wings team has turned the corner.
Yeah. Page is
And
really
they
good.
added your
Page is
like,
really
Melissa
good.
Smith wasn't fitting into their team.
Yeah,
Like, she's not good.
yeah.
So,
Uh,
I don't even know what she does. I'm surprised Becky Hammon traded for her. So you're right, she was starting, but I think they're gonna put Hines Allen into the starting lineup. And then the team is some nice pieces, to be honest. So, I don't know, man. I actually was talking about it. Were we talking about it, I think, with Wes on the show? We were looking at some of the futures at Bet Rivers. There's to reach the playoffs, yes, no, and Dallas is plus 950. And it's not again, I've
And
made worse
dabble.
bets in my life, right? So you would who falls, right? Like that's the question. Is it Golden State? Is it Indiana? Is it the Aces? Like Dallas is only 4 games back of a playoff spot. Now that's a lot when you only have 28 games to go, but I don't know, man. Like Paige is putting up some ridiculous numbers. Wale is actually they're not letting her just gun and be a disaster and a black hole like she's passing. So plus 950 is not that crazy. Like teams we can rule out. Connecticut Sun are obviously terrible. I think the Sparks stink. And so I actually think the Sky might be worth if they, continue with the small ball. I just think they don't have enough offense. So I think the Wings can actually get there at plus 950. The Mystics have been a pleasant surprise. So they would have to pass the Mystics and like one other team, which could be the Fever if Caitlin Clark's injury lingers all year, or if the Valkyries come back to earth.
Doug, for those who are betting WNBA for the first time ever this season, do you want to give them like a quick 30-second overview of which teams make the playoffs? Because there's an odd number of teams that might be confusing for folks.
Right. Yeah, and it's no conferences. So it's just 13 teams, 8 make the playoffs. So going into the season, we thought like maybe 6 or 7 were guaranteed, and that kind of is the case now. Although some of the teams we thought were maybe on the fringe. So there's really like 4 mediocre to bad teams competing for one spot. That's kind of how it's going to play out the rest of the year. The Golden State Valkyries are an expansion team. They're surpassing expectations already over their win total of 8.5, and they're at 9-7. I think they hang on, but I wouldn't be shocked if they came back to earth and barely missed the playoffs. So maybe there's a playoff spot to be had. But again, we're talking about plus 950.
Yeah.
And that's the allure. And I think they're going to get better because Beckers is getting better. They're convincing her to shoot more, things along those lines. And yeah, the Valkyries are minus money to make the playoffs, but it's not drastic.
And I
So
guess one clarification is plus 950 because we're not talking about just one team having a drop out of the top 8. Dallas also has to jump like 4 or 5 teams themselves, right? So that's why the odds are at 950. But to answer your question, I mean the 8 teams that are currently in, I would say Golden State's the only one that I could see dropping just because I expect Caitlin Clark to come back, Fever to play better. Asia Wilson, the Aces, they're going to be there unless she gets hurt. That could be a possibility.
and she had a concussion though, so that's kind of an isolated
Yeah,
injury, right?
but every other team, I'm super high on. Lynx, Mercury, Liberty, Dream,
Mhm.
Storm. Like I believe on all 5 of those teams. So it's potentially the Valkyries there, but I don't know. I believe in Golden State just because of their home court advantage is so great, and then the way that they play defense. So I don't know if I could do the 950 on the Wings, even though that is enticing.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a small P. It'd be a 1/10 of a unit for me. But let's say I guarantee, let's say if I told you with a crystal ball that Golden State will miss the playoffs.
Mm.
Okay, so you remove that minus 159, right? Because that's what the market has for them to make the playoffs. So you remove that. Who would you, if you had to pick one or the other, who would you pick to get that spot?
Who would I pick? It would be between the Mystics and the Wings. But I
Yeah,
think
so
the
the Mystics
market,
are in the driver's seat for sure.
yeah, I think the market would have the Sparks because of,
Hmm.
yeah, I think the market would have Sparks as shorter odds than the Wings.
Cameron Brink is expected back, but man, I think the Mystics are significantly better.
Yeah,
Sparks right now plus 650 to make it. And no, the Mystics are plus 108.
nice.
So Mystics are plus 108 to make the playoffs.
So that's basically the way I read that. It's a one head-to-head competition between the Mystics and the
Right.
Valkyries. Yeah.
Right. Right. Because I think the Mystics, I mean, they have a bunch of rookies too, right? Citron's only going to get better.
Yeah.
Kiki's only going to get better.
Mystics are
And I,
good.
I like
Yeah,
that they're well coached
yeah,
too.
I agree. I agree. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I think LA stinks. I think Kelsey Plum is incredibly overrated. The Athletic did a poll. They ranked like 16 players in terms of like how good, and she ranked 16th. So I love seeing that. Um,
Was it the same poll that ranked Caitlin Clark ninth? Just playing.
yeah, I don't know if that's jealousy or
Crazy.
what, but that does pour gasoline on the soap opera allegations, which is kind of funny. So, um, who knows, right? But I think LA's got issues, and they're thin. I don't think they're that great a coached, and I think they have the wrong personnel for their team. I think they have too many players in the wrong positions and stuff like that. They're kind of a disarray. But much more with you tomorrow, with Sarah, as you guys react to the Commissioner's Cup. You can talk about the flat spot that is for the Minnesota Lynx, and we'll go from there. But good stuff as always. Really good to talk about the futures market, both in the W and the NBA, as this free agency news continues to circle in. So we each have one official play here. I'm on the Lynx over 85.5 points team total, and you're on a same game parlay Minnesota money line plus over 158 in the game. So that's plus 104 on the same game parlay. So I think that's a strong look. Hopefully it all plays out. And we have a high scoring game with the Lynx cruising with a lot of points pushing 100. So that's going to do it for us. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Just a reminder, we are every single weekday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Tons of good content on the Bet Rivers Network. We encourage everyone to check it out. There's Betting Weekly Dojo with Nigel and Neil. They're discussing tennis betting strategy for big tournaments, which obviously Wimbledon's underway. That show was released this morning. So was Betting Weekly Game Bet Match with Nigel and Sean, previewing the second round of men's Wimbledon. So a lot of good stuff across the Bet Rivers Network. I've been on a mini heater in the baseball at 8-1.
Nice.
In my last 4 shows. We got the Blue Jays team total under 3.5 in this game, and Yanks just put a 2 spot up in the top of the first north of the border. So a lot of action going on. Make sure you subscribe and like so you can get all the alerts, and stay tuned to all of our shows. So Albert's in with Sarah tomorrow here for Betting Weekly Fast Break. For Albert and everyone else behind the scenes that does all the heavy lifting, I'm Doug Kezirian. We'll see you back here tomorrow.